Yes, hello, welcome, folks, once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. I'm Chris, this is my channel. Absolute pleasure to have you with me here today. And fun fact, folks, here in the United Kingdom, just last week, the epic, the iconic anime movie Akira, made by Katsuhiro Otomo, had a 4K IMAX cinema release across selected cinemas here in the United Kingdom. Regulars around these parts will know that I have a small collection of Akira kind of figures and statues and such like. This film was enormously influential on me as a young teenager, and I've carried a love of it through the years. On this very channel alone, I've already taken a look at my trading card collection and shown off a recent eBay acquisition. And so today, in honor of that absolute cult classic getting an IMAX 4K restoration cinema release here in the United Kingdom, I thought I'd add another video to this little series of Akira collections, dig into the old toy boxes and dig out something that you might find interesting to take a look at. And that is my Akira Capsule toy collection, or otherwise known as Gashapon, I think. Correct me in the comments down below. So let's get into it and take a closer look at these bad boys. So let's get things started with a little bit of context. So these are made by Kaido. They're capsule toys. They're over in Japan. They come in the small vending machine capsules, although over here, internationally, they came in kind of blister boxes. You know, random selection in blister boxes. I, in fact, have a couple from when I originally started collecting these ages ago. I initially started collecting these way back upon their original release, which was, to my memory, the mid-2000s-ish, about 2004, 2005. And some of these, you can see, I've had them for a very, very long time. They've got shelf wear on. The Kaneda on his motorbike going around here has got the yellowing on the windscreen plastic, and you can also see a little bit of kind of sort of dust wear where I've not been dusting them down and caring for them quite so well. The little figurines are made from PVC. Most of them are, you know, approximately or around a sort of 3-inch height scale. You can see that figurine to figurine, they don't fully scale together as a set. So some character designs, physiques and shapes are drastically different, you know, from character to character. If we look at Takeshi coming around here, you can see that the figurine and the focus on the character of Takeshi is much larger than, say, this one of Kei here now, or this one of Tetsuo coming round. They were initially released over 3 waves, or 3 series, if you like. Each wave had 5 in it, except for the third one, which had a 6th figure in it. You've been watching them on this turntable now, roughly in chronological order, but obviously with some overlap, because I can only fit 4 of them on each turntable at a time, as there's been 1 or 2 that have been from the next wave along, sitting in there. This isn't a complete set that you've seen either, actually. There were some chase figures as well, and I do not have the chase figures. They were transparent versions of a couple of these, like the Takeshi had a transparent version, and I never got them. You know, I was because it was a blind product. I never ended up picking up any of the transparent ones through the box opening, because I did it legitimately by, you know, buying them off the shelf and opening packages. And here, folks, is one of the original boxes from back in the early 2000s that used to get them in, I think, in the international distribution, because I did not buy these in capsules. As I said earlier, I bought them over the counter in a comic book shop that I used to visit here in Manchester. And so, yeah, you can see the original packaging there with obviously the iconic, legendary Kaneda and his bike image from the classic poster and such like. Mini vignette series, 5 types, so this must have been from wave 1 or 2, if there's 5 of them. In fact, I can tell you for a fact, this is wave 1 now, looking at the cross promotion on the back of the packet. And so you can see there what that looked like, and these would come in obviously large booster display boxes, and it'd be a blind box. You'd open it up and you'd get one of these figures. And, you know, back then, to get the set completed, I just traded. This was back in the days when you used to do trades and you didn't sell stuff on eBay. Do trades to kind of complete the set. Quite funny that I've still got 2 of these, in fact. The sets, the figurines, are modular, and so I was using these for a couple of them that didn't hold together quite as well when they were in storage. Obviously on display they were fine, or had smaller fiddlier parts that I wanted to make sure I didn't lose, and so I kept a couple of the boxes just to store some of the extra bits in. And there you go, you can see on the inside of the packaging it had the Akira, the arrival of the Akira child, the Esper, at the end of the movie there. Although, interestingly enough, this is movie-related artwork here, and that's the movie poster on the front. However, a lot of the figurines, as you probably saw on the turntable, are more heavily inspired by the comic book, the original manga, than it is by the anime movie. So, for example, here, if we look at the Colonel and Akira on the left-hand side of the screen, these are clearly from later volumes in the manga, which are parts of the narrative that the movie never got anywhere near, which was post the arrival of Akira and the kind of secondary kind of apocalyptic event in Neo Tokyo. And then this one here on the right is clearly that iconic comic book scene from one of the earlier volumes of Yamagata's death, which was also used as one of the covers, a notable cover for us here in the West on the Viz printing of Akira, a very notable colour version of this iconic moment, this a very important moment in the storyline. This one here of Tetsuo, though, is quite interesting because it's kind of a mashup of the movie and the manga. He's in his coat and his kind of scruffy wear, and they've staged the scene, they've blocked the scene for, again, another very popular, very famous panel from inside the manga where he meets Akira and Akira's playing on the floor. However, they've got the jars, the jars from the moment in the movie where he descends into the secret bunker and discovers these there. Whereas this figurine here with Kaneda on his bike with the laser beam rifle, the laser rifle, seems to be much more evocative of the final stadium battle from the movie itself. Nor did I actually manage to complete the main core set, the mainline core set, back in 2004, 2005 either. It's had a couple of reissues over the year, and I managed to finally finish this mainline set and get the small number. It was only 2 or 3 figurines that I was missing overall. Managed to get them only about 5 or 6 years ago when there was a reissue, I think around 2020-ish, give or take. There's probably actual, chronological information on a website somewhere that highlights that precisely, but I'm running off memory right now because I think they have also just had another reissue maybe last year. I noticed some in my local Forbidden Planet here in Manchester. But this is why, for example, this Kaneda on his motorbike from that final scene in the stadium battle from the movie is looking a lot fresher, and the red's a lot better, and no faded windscreens or anything, because this is one of the later additions to my collection that I've only had for like 4 or 5 years, whereas these two I've had for the best part of 20 years plus now, which is pretty incredible, really. So in terms of that modularity that I was speaking of before, I'll just grab this K. This is when she's in a kind of pajama jumpsuit, battling Tetsuo. Again, much more kind of movie-inspired, I think, this one. It's been a long while since I read the manga, but I'm pretty sure it's much more movie-inspired. And this is when she's kind of being supported by and telepathically fused with the Espers to fight him. But you can see here, if I just sort of pop her off there, you've got this little kind of plug hole. And then on her back, there's an angled plug hole. So you kind of modularly plug it all together. These pieces, like there's bits that come off here, like that section and this section. So when you open up your box and get your little baggie with your bits in it, you have to go through a process of putting it all together. Now, considering these are PVC and they were released, definitely 20 years plus, maybe even edging on towards 25 years, well, maybe a smidge less, but considering how old they are and, what technology and the accepted standard was at the time compared to what we look for in figurines and smaller figures now, or just action figures in general, the sculpting and the paint applications on these are pretty impressive, and they definitely have a lot of shelf presence. They're very eye-catching pieces on display. We look at Kaneda here during the kind of the sewer fight scene, like his jumper. You can see the sculpted details in his jumper and each of the individually painted stripes. Look, even the teeth on the teeth there. Inside the mouth, little tiny teeth, and very neat and tidy. The eyes, the eyebrows, little swooshy hair sculpts. I mean, it's not super intricate, and it's certainly not painted up to, like, I don't know, Golden Demon Award winning standard or anything. But considering you're talking about little out-the-box kind of blind bag pieces, I mean, look at the sewage water effects down by his feet here and how they're sort of moving around his feet at the ankle and passing through and bubbling up around the debris from the skiff, the kind of soldier's skiff that they were using that he shoots down. A little bit of sculpted details in the pistol there. Really, really impressive. And of course, the kind of grotesque, overwhelming like explosion of power inside Tetsuo that caused the big bloopy, goopy body horror thing to take place. Just incidentally, while I've got this Tetsuo on screen as well, this is just an example where the small pieces, sometimes keeping a collection like this that you've displayed a lot over the years, you end up snapping bits off or losing bits. And there's a little section here that used to sit there. You can see the plug hole for it. At least I think that's where it was. There was definitely an extra piece on this that I long since lost to the sands of time, fell off. Ended up in a rug, got hoovered up by accident. You all know the routine there. So it's certainly not a mint condition, pristine set by any stretch of the imagination. But even then, when you look at the dust where on his big swooshing cape. However, getting back to my theme at hand for this section, the sculpting. Look at the sculpting on all that. Just brilliant. All this kind of body horror stuff going on. Excellent stuff. Sadly, the line never continued beyond these original 16 figurines, at least to my knowledge, and I did a quick bit of research before recording this video just to confirm that, and it does appear to be the case, which is a shame because, they were good quality figurines, they were at a decent price, although I think they're a lot more expensive nowadays. And also because there's a wide number of notable missing characters or scenes that would have been great to see in this style to expand, the shelf presence of the collection. The other two Espers are missing. There's no Kyoko. There's no Masora. The other members of the biker gang like Kaisuke, obviously Kaori, very key character, the Joker gang, the Colonel's armed forces, Ryu, and other resistance members like the dude that freed Takeshi in that early scene in the movie. Kind of key characters that sadly never received a little mini figurine diorama in the line. And of course, with at least 2 reissues that I know of, the reissue from 5 or 6 years ago that I definitely utilised to finish the line. In fact, that Tetsuo there is a reissue one that I picked up to finish the line. They've never expanded on it or released additional characters or figures with those reissues. So I think the likelihood of me ever getting, an expanded biker gang or the Jokers or whatever is obviously unlikely, which is a shame. However, for a little collection that I've kept for a long, long time, it's a lovely addition to the collection. And finally, to finish up, if anybody's interested, Akira in IMAX 4K subbed is a pretty epic experience, but what I will say is it's an awful lot to take in. It's an awful lot to take in, especially, some of those Neo Tokyo scenes from the earlier parts of the movie while you're trying to read the subs at the same time and take it all in. It can be a little bit overwhelming in the right kind of way. But an excellent experience nonetheless. So there we go, folks. Well, let me know from these 16 figurines what I've been showing you, if anyone stood out, little favourite, whether you collected them too back in the day. Perhaps you've got the transparent ones that I've been missing from the collection. Or I've got my facts wrong. Let me know in the comments down below. I did a little bit of research, but didn't properly research it. It was more about sharing the collection and sharing my thoughts and feelings about the figures as they stand. So, drop whatever you like in the comments down below. But thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, do all the YouTubey stuff, press the red button, do the thumbs up, yada, yada, yada. Otherwise, all that remains to say is have yourselves a great day, have yourselves a great week, and swing back around again for another video sometime soon. I'd love to have you. All right? Take it easy, folks.